Hi, Trevor here, reflecting on life through music. Welcome and thank you for stopping by. It really is fantastic that you are here. Well, I trust you enjoyed my last video on the iconic music legend Cher, and through the incredible memories and opportunities in her life, we asked the question, do you believe in love after love? So I trust you found that one an encouragement. Well, we go from there to another bunch of guys that have been around forever. 1967, these guys were formed in Chicago, and they've been kind of defined as a rock and roll band with horns. There's so much more to this band, and I'm talking about the band Chicago today, than just that. There is elements of progressive rock in here as well, because these guys are very, very tight, incredibly good musically, and are not scared to try anything and everything. Of course, they are renowned for their incredible musicianship and their incredible harmonies and their incredible lead vocals in particular, and incredible songwriting. Because between 1969 and 2019, there's been 24 studio albums, 7 live albums, 11 compilation albums, not that many, which is kind of good, and 64 singles. One of the most long-running and successful bands of all time. They've had 5 consecutive #1 albums. In fact, they've sold around 100 million albums. There's 23 gold status, 18 platinum status, and 88 multi-platinum status albums. The songs just go on and on. I've got 25 or 6 to 4. We've got You're the Inspiration, Hard Habit to Break, Hard to Say I'm Sorry If You Leave Me Now. The songs just go on and on and on. These guys really, really know how to write songs, and they've enjoyed the success that they have. They are multi-nominated Grammy award holders and a Grammy winning artist. They were inducted into the Grammy Hall of Fame. They were inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 2016. Also a nod for the Grammys with a Grammy Lifetime Award in 2016. And many of them have been inducted into the Songwriting Hall of Fame in 2017, because these guys really know how to write songs. Now, earlier in the career, we had a guy called Peter Cetera who was he's such a fantastic voice. His solo career was kind of take off, and Chicago and him kind of parted ways a little bit. But Robert Lamb has picked up the mantle of Peter Cetera since that time, and so very much this band has continued despite what was a significant change in 1985. That is for sure. Now, there's just so many songs to pick from, and which one do we actually go with to focus on today? And I think I had to go to the song Hard to Say I'm Sorry. This came off the album Chicago 16 in 1982, and this is a Grammy award-winning song, this one. We're going into a part of human nature today which is not the easiest thing to talk about. So just bear with me here, because many of us struggle with this stuff, and it's good to bring it out into the open. Imagine it is that someone who you love even does something absolutely despicable and betrays you, and you are left absolutely desperately in a mess because of what's happened. Your brain is just whirring with all of this betrayal and all this sadness and everything else, and you're thinking, what just happened? Just imagine that the person who hurt you comes back to you and says, hey, look, something I need to say. I've really thought about what happened, and I'm really, really, really sorry for what I have done. I value our relationship too much for me to just let this go, and I'm going to do anything I can to actually make it up to you. I'm sincerely, sincerely sorry, and I want your forgiveness. What's the answer to that question? Your head is reeling still, and your head is like, oh my goodness, I don't even want to see you today. And you're coming to me asking me to say sorry, to forgive you? Why? Well, you know what? What you're looking for maybe through this is also some freedom from those feelings, freedom from those thoughts whirring around in your head. And one of the things that's going to actually stop those thoughts when you're confronted with this person that is absolutely really, really sorry for what they've done is to forgive them. And it could be that while you're forgiving, you say, oh, actually thinking about, yeah, I did react in a bit of a way that wasn't the best either, so I'm sorry too. And then hopefully trust can rebuild and the relationship can move forward. And then those feelings that you've got of, like, you know, sadness and chaoticness and everything else, they just tend to go. Trust may take a while to build up again, but you know, your brain is kind of set free a little bit. That's sometimes how things happen. Probably doesn't happen that much as it needs to sometimes. What would you do in a situation where, again, you've been really hurt by somebody, and one day I didn't even realise that they'd hurt you, but you're so torn up by what's happened that you just don't know what to do, or they do realise they've hurt you, but they just don't care. They just don't care, you know, whatever, you know, get over it, you know, deal with it sort of thing. What do you do in those sort of situations? Because you're still cut up, you're still desperate, and you've still got all these things whirring around inside your head. You kind of know in your heart of hearts that that relationship will probably never come back. But you've still got these feelings inside your head. What do you do with situations like that? Well, I suppose it all comes, and don't get me wrong here, by the way, when I'm there, it's not easy, this stuff. I get that. I really, really get that. I understand this stuff is not easy, but the main reason for saying this stuff today is for you to be set free from these feelings. Where does forgiveness start? Well, even in that situation before where someone comes to you and says, I'm really, really sorry, you're thinking inside your head, will I forgive them or not? And if the decision is made, well, yes, I will, that's where forgiveness starts. Forgiveness starts in here. This is where it starts. So what do? You can't see yourself actually going to talk to the person. You really can't even stand being in the same room with them. You don't even want them to breathe in your direction. But you want to be set free of these feelings that you've got. Or maybe the answer, though you don't really want to face this answer, is just to forgive them in your heart. It could be that no words ever come out. No words ever come out to resolve this issue, but you just forgive them in your heart. How on earth do you do that? It takes an incredible force of will to be able to do stuff like that. But I suppose you want to be totally selfish about it. We don't want these feelings in our head either, so we've got to act on these feelings somehow. And if it is a betrayal, one of the worst situations you can probably face, probably the best thing to do is to go and talk to somebody about it. The aim being that you're going to offload this thing on this person, a psychiatrist or psychologist or counsellor or someone, and then you're going to walk out of the office and leave it there. And then, even though you might be feeling a little bit funny about it still, you've taken an action to try and reduce the unforgiveness effect and move it into the forgiveness territory. And if it's done right, you can experience that freedom that forgiveness brings. It's the reason forgiveness actually exists. It exists more for the person who's forgiving than the person on the other side. So it could be that maybe you need to write them a letter just saying, look, I hate your guts. How dare you do what you did to me? You know, there's just no words to explain how I'm feeling right now. I'm pissed at you. To use it, or I could use a lot more, even more vehement words than that. But I'm going to forgive you for those things. And I'm going to get you out of my mind forever. And these feelings that I've got that I'm hanging on to. Writing a letter, we talk about mindfulness. You know, you might imagine a leaf going down a river, and you dump the feeling on that, and you watch the leaf float away. I'm not a psychologist, I suppose, but you know, forgiveness is just one of these things that we all have to confront and face at some point. I don't think forgiveness is comes when just someone comes up to you and says, look, I'm just sorry for what I did, whatever. No, there's got to be a genuine, I think, repentance there. Now, repentance is basically acknowledging that you've done something wrong and you need to make it right. That's what repentance actually is. And so I would argue that for forgiveness verbally to happen, that's got to happen before. In fact, if you want a bit of an authority on that, I mean, you could look at the Bible as an example. The Bible is just full of situations where there's been a grievance against someone, and then the other someone comes and they say they're sorry, and then forgiveness happens at that point. The Bible is full of forgiveness scenarios, but I can't cite one example where there hasn't been a genuine sorry beforehand. So I think there's maybe a bit of an authority there that we can go to if you're not sure what I'm saying is true. Now, you may not acknowledge the Bible much, but there is a bit of a story in there of a king who forgives someone of a $1 million debt. And the guy says, oh, look, King, have mercy on me. I'm really, really sorry. Look, I can't pay you back. Can you please forgive the debt? And the king says, yeah, all right. I don't need the money. Let's forgive it. And then the guy goes out to another guy who owes him $1,000 and says, pay me my money. You've got to pay me or I'm going to throw you in jail. Well, has the guy learned anything from the forgiveness of the $1 million debt? Well, no. And so he doesn't understand the power of what the king has done for him. This is the issue that we have got if we just say, look, yeah, it's okay, and the person doesn't really understand how much they've hurt you. I think the Bible has very much got an authority on this, and I think perhaps that's a bit of an answer for us when confronted with this just very glib sorry. It means the sorry needs to mean something, or we become a bit like a doormat. So if you're in a situation right now where you've got someone coming and you say, look, I'm really, really sorry for what I've done, and you can see that they actually mean what they're saying, there's an opportunity for you to be set free of the sadness that you're feeling. Take the opportunity, talk about what happened, and talk about how things can move going forward, because there's probably going to need to be some changes in the relationship going forward. But if the relationship is worth it, you'll actually go down that track. But if you ever face a situation where there's not going to be that conversation, well, set the journey off in your heart anyway by going to talk to someone, and over time you may be able to let it go. That's a challenge for all of us today, I'm thinking. Well, I trust that will be an encouragement for you. Don't get me wrong here. This stuff is really, really hard. We don't understand why human beings do the things that they do. Sometimes we get a bit stupid and silly at times. And if all 7.5 billion of us could agree to not to do this stuff from now on, that would be easy. But that's probably not going to happen. And so we've got to deal with this on a one-by-one basis in the best way. But my main thing I'm saying to you today is we want to be free of these feelings. So let's just at least commit ourselves to the journey if that's what's needed. So please be encouraged today. We're all in this together. Trust me on that. I'm not talking from someone who has this stuff all together either. You know, there are issues that I've got in my life that I'm still struggling with. And so trust me, I know how hard this stuff can be. Well, on to the clips, and we've got 4 live versions today, which is pretty cool. It's good to see live. I love putting up live if I can. We do have Hard to Say I'm Sorry. This came off the album Chicago 16 from 1982. And so that one's there for you to see, and that's Peter Cetera singing up the front there. And he's got a pretty amazing voice, hasn't he? We then got 25 or 64. This came out in 1970, and this is a live version from the iconic Red Rocks Auditorium in the US. So, and you'll get to see Chicago in the rockier version, that is for sure. We then got If You Leave Me Now. This came off the 1976 album Chicago 10, and here's Peter Cetera actually taking the lead on this one, and you'll get to see them in their softer version here. Just such class when you see groups like this performing. And then we've also got All the Inspiration. This came off Chicago 17 in 1984, and here we see Robert Lamb taking the lead on this particular song. Even though Peter Cetera was there at the start, Robert Lamb's got a pretty good voice and really suits the grittiness that Chicago has as part of their sound. So all of the links to those songs are in the description below. So I encourage you to look at all of those or some of those, but just be swept away with what is the brilliance of the band Chicago. And by the way, I've also included my last video from Cher. So if you want to recap on that one, feel free to do that as well. Well, if you've come back for another video, so good for you to do so. It's always good when people come back for another one. And if this is your first time to Life Reflections Through Music, thank you very much and welcome to the channel. Please note the invitation below that if you want me to look at a song, I'll be more than happy to do that for you and chop it into your comment for you to have a look at. Well, that's it for today. Next time we're going to be carrying on this forgiveness theme just a little bit with singer-songwriter Chris August. So until then, I'll catch you around.